just be very quick. I know there's people over there
Yeah.
waiting to ask a question, but you said we see here three-dimensionally.
Yeah.
As we move into these different other dimensions and spheres, can we see 4, 5, 6 dimensions?
Yes.
Like Anton at Mildura talk mentioned about the spirits having geometric
Shapes, yes.
Is that what's happening?
That's what's happening. As you enter different dimensions, your actual soul changes, and therefore your physical forms change, and therefore you can actually see things in different dimensional spaces with your eyes. You know, obviously that changes too. When you get above the 6th dimension, remember these are the spheres of probation. In other words, they are the spheres that you're growing, but you're not yet at one with God. But really, if you like, every single sphere is a probation for the next sphere. Like the place you're at now is the place that is the precursor to the next place you'll be in. And so you think, if you think of your whole life like that, you won't go astray. You know, like that you're just in a continuous state of learning, if you like.
So as we progress, we're not going to see how we see now. It's going to be
You're definitely not going to see how you see now. You're going to initially interpret it as the same, but as your awareness expands in terms of your soul, but also as your soul awareness expands, so does your mind. As your awareness expands, then you start seeing things very differently. So a spirit sees your body very differently to how you see your own body. A spirit sees your body as a very flimsy thing that it can pass straight through, in fact. It sees the interaction, if you like, of all of your atomic structure physically. And it sees the energy flow in your body, it sees all of those kind of things, but it can actually walk through your body. So a spirit sees your body very differently. Yeah. We might must be a cleaner out there. If we can just close that. That's the hand. No worries. That's what it would be. If I've got the hand dryers on, if you just pull the door shut in the loose, it's quite loud. So does that make sense?
Yes, it does. It just opened a big idea in my head.
Exactly. The beauty of discussing a lot of these things, even intellectually, is even though we don't necessarily understand them at the soul level yet, because you can only really understand them when you experience them. The beauty of sort of opening your awareness in your mind is that you now are aware of potentials that far exceed what you currently can do, which now allows you to utilize your imagination to wonder what is out there and to have this continuous feeling of discovery. The thing that we need to bear in mind, though, is this. All of this stuff that I've talked about really is of little use to you. And the reason why it's of little use to you is because of one particular thing. And let's talk about it. Let's rubble that out. So it's wonderful to know it, like in a way. It's like fascinating. It's a fascinating intellectual exercise, can we say, to know these particular things that far exceed your own experience. However, without you understanding love, you will never understand any of these things. Without you understanding love, and you need to come to understand love in two forms. You need to understand the love that comes from within you, which, shall we call that, the name I gave that in the first century was the natural love, the love that comes from within you. And you need to understand it from the love that comes from God, from within God to you, which we will call the divine love. Those two forms of love and understanding all of the principles associated with them are the key to your understanding the rest of your existence. So the problem that many of us face is that we become fascinated with the metaphysical discovery, right, of truth without focusing on how we actually can experience that truth. And the only way we can experience that truth is by growing in love, right? That's the only way we can experience these things, these dimensions, in fact, that are above the dimension in which we currently live. And yet, every time I say that to people, we still often want to go back to the metaphysical discussion, right? And the metaphysical discussion, while it's fascinating, does not help me with this. And it's only that that'll help me understand the metaphysical discussion from a soul perspective. So we get into a quandary then, don't we? We're like a cat chasing its own tail, or a dog chasing its own tail, in the sense that we're going around in a circle, hoping to intellectually discover things with our mind that we are totally unable to discover and experience unless our heart changes with regard to love.
And that's what the scientists are doing with the theory.
Sorry if you just say that into the...
That's what the scientists are doing with the theories. It's the same thing. It's the fascination with ideas.
Exactly.
And you get a big idea.
Exactly.
And
it's wonderful to have big ideas.
it's wonderful.
Yes.
Because it is fascinating.
It is fascinating. But the question then becomes, what are we the most fascinated about? Exactly. Right? Now, and this is what I said in the first century, and I'll say it again now, if your largest fascination is with love, you will discover all these other things. But if your largest fascination is not with love, then you might intellectually come up with a heap of theories and ideas, and even somebody else might come along and tell you what's possible, but you'll never experience it. And this is the problem that we have. If our fascination is not with love, we really lose the point of the entire universe, which is for us to grow in love and for us to understand love and understand its complexity. Love, can I point out too, love is scientific. Love is also logical. Right? It is also, of course, an emotion or a feeling. It's emotional. But it also has these other flavours, these other things that we're often looking for. So this is why when we have an intellectual discussion about something in the universe, we become very enthusiastic and, and animated because it is a part of our soul, this beautiful desire that God's placed into our soul to continue discovering. What I'm saying to you, though, that unless you understand what the most important thing is to discover, love, you will never understand all the other things that are potentially able to discover, because they're all based on laws of love. So every one of those dimensions that I've mentioned in that previous discussion are all based upon love, and how you get there is all based upon love, and the things you discover are all based upon love in that process. Yeah. And that to me is the most fascinating thing. But I find it quite interesting when we're talking that often it's not the most fascinating thing for most audiences. It's the other things are the fascinating things. If we use the microphone, can we have the mic? Because nobody hears otherwise.
Sorry, that leads to the place where you could have a fascinating talk about the idea of God and love.
Exactly. Yeah.
Which is what we could all... Yeah,
so if I was really fascinated about love, can you see that we would probably be asking different questions today? Because it's our fascination about love that will lead us to understand all of these other fascinating things. But if we don't have a fascination with love and a discovery of love and what love is about and how we can grow in it and all those other questions associated with it, then can you see it's also impossible for us to ever experience these other things. And in the first century, that's why I said, if you seek first God's love, all of these other things will be added to you. Right? Now, it's got written down now as, if you seek first God's kingdom, all of these other things will be added to you. And this is the reality, is that if we seek first God's love, then we have the ability to understand everything else. If we discuss everything else first, then we're never going to have the ability to really understand it, because it's love in our soul that allows for us to understand it.